This little video series is called Dying Dar's Way, Radically Real Spiels on the End of Life. I'm here today with my friend Alisa Algava, who is the daughter of a longtime friend from our nonprofit organization, the Suppers Programs, Priscilla Algava. And just as the muses would have it, just at the time that I was diagnosed with cancer, your mom died of cancer. And I have to say, I have never seen daughters do such a fine job with the living and the dying for nearly 3 years, as Alisa and Karen did with their mom, Priscilla. She was 78. Her mom had died at 94, and Priscilla clearly felt gypped. She wasn't really ready. She wasn't ready at all,
no.
right, to deal with
we all
the
thought
fact
she
that
was
she was
gonna live
dying.
forever. Yeah.
So please say as much as you're comfortable with about that.
I can, it's interesting because Mom just couldn't go there. And I think part of it for us over the few years of this cancer journey that our family experienced together, which close to the beginning I was able to describe as the most painful and loving time of our lives. And it's a both and.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
And I remember thinking that and Mom just couldn't go there. She couldn't talk about dying. And we did sometimes, once we started some family therapy at Sloan Kettering, and Mom went from treatment to treatment to treatment. The remission,
a completely different story.
Never, the thing never went into remission. It was misdiagnosed for months, and then by the time they got it, it was stage 4 endometrial, and which also is unusual because often with endometrial, they'll catch it and then it's like a 90% survival rate. So that was another layer of
more fuel.
But she tried one thing after another, and she just wanted to be here. She wanted to be with us. And Karen went to see you speak at the library. I was supposed to go, and then our dad fell, so I ended up with him.
An end-of-life planning event.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Karen was blown away. And she still keeps talking about it, and we've been talking about it a lot, is like, how is it that different people have such different experiences with this moment of life? This is life.
Right.
Dying is life, and life is dying. But, like, our mom...
I was at one extreme. I am at one extreme.
Dora's at this end of the continuum, and our mama was at this end of the continuum.
She had the worst case of fear of missing out I have ever seen, and did the entire time I knew her. Yeah.
FOMO. Karen and I had only learned about FOMO, I think, like a year before she got diagnosed. And we were like, oh, that explains it. But she wanted to be with us. She loved being with her grandchildren and with us and with everybody who loved her and she loved. And so she couldn't even, the one time she ever brought up dying with me, unsolicited, was when she said, and this was towards the very end, we were in the car driving back from New York, and she said to me, would it be okay with you? I don't want to upset you and Karen. Would it be okay with you if I was cremated? Oh. And
so she had been thinking.
So
about
it was there, and in the therapy sometimes she would say things, and she would talk about how she really wanted to be at Drew and Sabria's b'nai mitzvahs, and how she wanted to dance at weddings, and she had always pictured herself in all these moments with us, and she just couldn't. And even to accept hospice, it took a lot, which she did in the end. Like a month before she died, she agreed to let us call them, to just say, let's just call them and see what they have to say. Right. And they came in and talked with us, and they were lovely. They're amazing. But I tried, Karen and I both, especially, and I think I'll go back in time, go back to August 25th of 2016. My mom was diagnosed the night of August 24th. in the emergency room from a CAT scan, and we all met up in New York on the 25th to try and be like, to see her gynecologist there and to figure out what is going on. And we all went out to dinner. And my cousin Lindsay was with my cousin, my aunt, my mom. My aunt and my cousin were along the way, and cousins were along the way the whole time too. And my other aunts from a distance, but my Aunt Madeline especially. And my cousin Lindsay describes that dinner as being like, she was just so happy to be with all of us. And she said, I never felt so loved. But then she also turned to me and she said, I was the most worried about you.
Ah, she was the most worried about her niece.
No, me.
Yeah, you. Okay.
Her daughter. And because she was worried about how this would hit me.
Right.
And I spent the entire time in anticipatory grief.
Right.
And then my mom died, and I said to my therapist, I was like, well, a lot of good that anticipatory grief did.
Oh, boy.
It's like, this is the worst. It still is the most painful thing ever.
Yeah, it's probably a highly individual matter, but I had recognized a lot of my mourning had gone on in advance, and so for me, it was an expected death, 90-year-old. I didn't suffer as you suffer.
Right.
So let's just bring it around to the practical matters.
Sure.
For a moment. You have experienced probably the extreme of someone who loves life and is in denial and not dealing with the details of dying. You know what it's like to be a daughter who shows up for a mother who hasn't done the homework. Let's face it, your mother did not do much.
She did other homework, but not that one.
But not that. Emotionally, lots of love, no problems, fully expressed. But
see beauty everywhere.
But what would you do differently
for myself,
for yourself, your family, your sister, whoever? Preparation, paperwork, I don't know. What would you do differently?
I can't speak for Karen. I have a feeling, though, we're not that far apart in terms of our experiences of this, and I have a feeling that I go more towards this side of the continuum. Because for me, part of it also is just emotionally just being able to acknowledge what is real. And that has nothing to do with, it could be dying, it could be anything. But it's just like saying, this is what's actually happening.
That's really important to me, the being real thing, obviously.
And part of the denial, I think, is a survival mechanism that was learned over 78 years from my mama. And in her family, and a history of mental illness and her parents and alcoholism and everything else, of being able to protect yourself from the bad feeling, right?
Right.
Whereas for me, I'm okay with the bad feeling, because if I don't have the bad, now I've learned, it took me a long time, I'm 47 years old, but like, to have the bad feeling is part of having also the good feelings. It all goes together. And so
I like the full range.
Exactly.
I get that.
And so if it's all there, I would rather say, this is what's happening. Now what? And so, like, in terms of paperwork, like, my mom did do all of that. She did all the paperwork and the you know, and thankfully Martin her husband is
is an attorney.
And a state attorney who could write all the documents or whatever, living wills and all of that stuff. And she willingly signed those things. But in terms of actually talking about it, and planning purposefully, whether it was for that moment or for the days or for the months ahead or for what do we do when it gets to this point, when because the first oncologist, who unfortunately Mom we just had for a very short time because then she moved to Boston, she said to Mom the second time we met her, right now I have so many options with you. And she was trying to be real, and she was very young, and she didn't know my mom yet, and probably didn't realize this wasn't the thing to say.
Right.
But she said to her, someday, I probably am going to say, we don't have any more options. And that stuck with my mom.
Right.
And she would talk about having heard that, she couldn't handle that.
I have to say, the doctors are in a real bind because they don't get much opportunity to sense who you are.
Before they just...
My oncologist nailed it with me, and he just said, well, if you don't treat, you're looking at about 10 months. I was glad he just, I was the right person to just blurt out the statistics with. And, you know, I feel for doctors. I don't know how they make those calls about how much to say to whom.
And then then in the end, for most of the time that we were working with my mom's oncologist, Dr. O'Carroll at Sloan Kettering, I think, it's funny, I don't even know, there's so much more for me to process, but I think in the end, they saw something that we weren't able, that Karen and I and our family was not able to see, and my mom certainly would never have advocated for.
Right.
And she was able to see, my mom was so tired. She kept saying in the end, I'm so tired.
I get that. I'm headed there.
I can't do this anymore. And she did say that. And she was able to talk to other people, to Julianne, who took care of her, who you met. She was able to talk to other people, and she told Julianne, and she told some other people, not maybe just Julianne, actually, maybe she didn't tell anybody else, I want to die. I'm ready to die.
This happens. The hospice people have told me they're almost like a vector for information, because the dying person
can't say it
to the daughter, whatever. The daughter can't say it to the mother. They're both pretending like somebody's not dying, and they both know. It's I'm not sure how that happens. All I know is that for my preparation, there's been like rehearsing. Yeah. You know, long before there's any diagnosis, there's just real conversations, and there's some kind of rehearsing that makes it possible. As beautiful and heartfelt as your experience was, it missed
that piece.
Some really critical moments.
Yep.
Thank you.
And yeah, no, you're welcome. I had one more thought, was just in the moment, my mom, this goes back to the moment right after she was diagnosed, and then fast forward nearly 3 years, it really was very, very, very fast, and we didn't realize she was going to die that day on October 23rd, but in the 20 minutes, like, that she really was, like, actively dying, and we were all there, and Karen just kept saying to her, Mommy, you can rest now. You can rest now. And Karen and I had said to her many times, if it's too hard, Mom, it's okay. Right. You can let go. It's okay. More before that, like weeks and months before that. But in that moment, I even said to her, I said, Mom, we're going to be okay. We'll be okay. I said, even me. And I'm working on it. But
you get as much time as it takes.
We miss her so much. And we're going to miss you, but you're in us, just like our mama is. So, and we're blessed that we know you.
Thank you.